I'm Barbara Bundy. I'm Vice President of Education at FIDM and delighted to be here. This is so exciting. I've been to a lot of conferences, as I'm sure all of you have, and it's break time and everybody quietly files out, gets their coffee, does whatever they need to do, but this is so different. You can hear the buzz amongst everyone talking about what's been going on, and something we've talked about at FIDM for years, the synergy between entertainment and fashion, and wow, it's here and it's happening and it's so very exciting. It's my pleasure now to introduce the beginning of the presentation part of Ready to Share. And I feel like a proud mother introducing two FIDM graduates who we are just so very, very proud of. Kevan Hall, who many of you know as the couture designer who had really resurrected the name of Halston many years ago and now has a wonderful couture collection here in Los Angeles. Kevan has won many awards. He has been cited by many different organizations over and over again for his creativity. And he looks at a couture design sense and brings it down into sensible prices for everyone to wear. Joining him will be Kevin Jones, who is the curator of our FIDM Museum collection. After Kevin graduated from FIDM, he went on to UCSB and majored in art history and is truly a renowned scholar in the 17th through the 20th century of historic costume. And the two of them will be getting up here and talking to you about fashioning the future from the past. So I'll turn it over to Kevin and Kevin. Thank you.
Well, well, 6 Washingtons. What's that for?
Sandwiches. We split the expenses every week.
Oh. But if you play at a different house every week, why don't you just let the host take care of the sandwiches? It would all even up in the end.
We do it this way because we like it this way.
Yes, there were going to be words, all right.
It'll be done the same way 6 weeks from tonight when the game comes around here again.
So in 6 weeks, I thought, I'll have the pleasure of meeting that man with no nose again. I was going to say so, but repressed myself quickly. So in 6 weeks, I'll have the pleasure of meeting that man with no nose again.
I'm Kevan Hall. And I'm Kevin Jones. And here we have Millicent Rogers. And we just saw Lauren Bacall. And there is a pairing you can see between their styles. We've got this magnificent white shirt with huge sleeves and the full skirt.
Right.
Kevin, tell me how Millicent Rogers is your muse personally and in your fashion collection.
Right. Well, for this particular collection, I decided to look back to Millicent. I mean, she's always kind of been present in many of my designs over the years. I've always known about her and always loved her very, very high style and her grand sense of aesthetic. But for this particular collection, I wanted to really hone in on it. And I was kind of waiting for the right moment to you know, pull in her looks and pair it with satin bottoms and pair of beautiful blouses like you saw on in the clip of Lauren Bacall, a beautiful blouse with a ball skirt. Because what we're doing in today's fashion is there's so many shirts and so many blouses and that kind of thing, and people are pairing them with a beaded bottom or pairing them with a pair of jeans, and that's kind of the way people live today.
Here we have Millicent Rogers without the big full sleeves.
Right.
A very sleek look. Tell us how you also translate her from the grand to the more simple.
Right. Well, you know, Millicent would also do things that were very pared down, did her own jewelry and that kind of thing. So how I approach it is I look at you know, the simplicity of her style, where you want to pull back the grandeur. You want to maybe pare down that sleeve. You want to accent it with a piece of jewelry or accent it, you know, with a scarf or something around the waist or the hip.
Now, Millicent is one of the quintessential American fashion icons. She really brought that European sensibility and made it into her own as an American heiress. And tell us how you take that European sensibility and change it into an American aesthetic.
Well, you know, in Europe, very often the things are a grand flourish. You know, oversized and over-exaggerated. And I think for our American customer, we need to make things simpler. We need to pare it down. We want to make it so that it's mobile, so that it's modern. People need to be able to get in and out of taxis and in and out of cars. I mean, they're not, you know, not everybody is chauffeur driven. So you want to, you know, pull it back a few notches.
Right, and here we have Millicent wearing a Charles James ball gown.
Right.
Now, if anybody could not get out of a taxi, it would be someone wearing a Charles James ball gown.
Right.
And tell us how you take the love of Charles James and blend it into your fashions for today that make them modern, make them wearable today, and make them grand enough for high-powered occasions, the Academy Award, the Golden Globes, but still comfortable.
Right. Well, you know, you want to take out the crinolines. You take out a lot of the under construction. What you want is you want just the gesture of the look. You want the gesture of the grandeur, but not the complicated, you know, inner construction and all. And I think that's what making modern clothes is about. Right. One of the things that I also loved about Millicent is that she also would collaborate with many of the designers. I mean, she would help shape their collections because her sense of style was so strong. I mean, today you look at Hollywood celebrities and that kind of thing, and they have, you know, packs and packs of stylists and press agents and all these people that are giving them information and feeding them how they should look. But women like Millicent Rogers, Babe Paley, CZ Guest, these are women that had their own style, and they helped to shape and mold American fashion.
Here we have Millicent in her back view in a Charles James gown. Tell us how the neck, the shoulders, my back, is really important to your designing.
Well, you know, I like to see a lady look good going and coming. You know, when she turns around, you want to have, you know, some excitement from the back of a dress as well. You want to, every angle should paint a picture, and there should be some romance to the dress or to the suit or whatever the garment is.
So the grand entry and the grand exit.
The grand exit.
Same time.
We love that.
That's terrific.
Yeah.
Here we have Millicent Rogers in her pared down look, yet she is the epitome of chic. She is made from head to toe. Do you want your clients to be coiffed and makeup all the time, or do you like to pare down your clothes with other really amazing pieces from your collection?
Well, that's again one of the reasons that I look to Millicent is because she would wear a fabulous Balenciaga ball gown. She would wear an incredible skirt, and she'd mix that with the jewelry that she had made herself and strung the beads or strung the Navajo or the Santa Fe jewelry, or she would put it with things that she had hand painted or dipped and dyed herself. So it's the juxtaposition of that really grand, fabulous luxury of couture and then mixing it back to something that's simple and not so precious.
And so we're going to talk about it a little more detail later on, but tell us about accessorizing your clothes. Millicent used jewels from Cartier, Boucheron. She also designed her own pieces with Duro jewelry. How do you want your ladies to accessorize themselves?
I'm loving right now just piling it on for whatever reason, and it has to do with, you know, looking back to her. You know, more is more, where you just, you know, many necklaces, loads and loads of bracelets. I mean, it's fun to do that. I mean, and then at another point, you know, I might want something very clean, not any jewelry at all. But today, it's about piling the jewelry on.
Now, do you hand dye any of your materials the way we see Millicent here in her very fabulous outfit in Taos, New Mexico?
Right.
Up on a stool?
Well, no, I have not gotten on the stool yet. But, you know, again, it's just great to be able to look at from here to here, just the broad range of fabrics that one can mix together and have, again, the very precious with the very, you know, ornate and very beautiful.
As we move on, here's another one of your design influences. It's a man, Cecil Beaton.
Cecil Beaton.
Very famous.
Right.
Tell us about him.
Obviously, Cecil loves color because he's in a pink suit. And this is where my influence for this particular collection came from. It was the tinted photographs of Cecil Beaton that kind of structured, or I should say, set the tone for my color palette for spring 2005. And our model, when she comes out, you'll see these kind of colors, you know, the beautiful mango, that pale pink, the aqua color. These colors are where I pulled my inspiration from for the collection.
Interesting that here we have Charles James again. So you've got Cecil Beaton, Charles James, Millicent Rogers, and Charles James. And Charles James is very famous for his color sense, mixing odd colors together that somehow just blend beautifully.
Right.
We'll have our first model now, and we can look at some of those colors.
That'd be great. This really sets the palette for the collection. Again, like I said, you have the mango color, you've got the aqua, you've got the taupe color all mixed in there. And it really, for me, is a total American iconic shirt dress. I mean, again, Millicent would have worn something like a shirt dress, or Babe Paley would have worn a shirt dress. And my feeling right now is to be totally American in my sensibility and how I'm approaching the collections right now.
And interesting, the shirt dress. Here we have a piece from the FIDM Museum collection. This is Jacques Fat, late 1940s, and it is the quintessential shirt dress as well, but very grand, cocktail. That was for day.
This could go for day. I mean, a woman could wear that, you know, with a pair of low sandals, with a pair of flats. She can wear it to a club. She can wear it out just kind of bopping around town. I mean, but it's a great kind of look. Here you have, you know, the grandeur. You have the incredible, you know, coloring and the taffeta. So
something Millicent would have worn in her day, and then here we had the translation into the more modern sensibility for ease and comfort of California. Cecil Beaton and his color.
Right. As a colorist, not only was he a great photographer, he also was an artist. And as you can see, he colored, this was a hand watercolor of his. And from this, I took these colors and did the brighter portion of my collection. I had the softer shades from the other shot that we saw, and now this would be the brighter shades.
Okay.
And this would be how, let's say in the collection, we took that riot of color in that photograph and went here and put it into a silk chiffon a bustier dress with a high-low hem.
So in your shirt dress that we just saw, very flat textile pieces, lots of material that's belted in.
Right.
Tell us how you love twisting and manipulating material.
Well, that's one of the things that I really love. It's, I mean, and quite frankly, it's very difficult to even find people to kind of manufacture that, all that hand draping and that kind of thing. But it is something that is just, to me, very exciting and very beautiful. To use many, many yards of fabric is a luxury.
If we have our second model, please. Here is an example of that draping technique.
Right, and this kind of a look would be looking back to Vionnet. And again, like I said, you know, a dress is, you know, beautiful from the front, and then she has a great back as well, so you're gorgeous going and coming. The scarf kind of wrapping around the body, you know, the accent of the jewel at one hip. When we showed this collection on the runway, Vidura supplied all the jewels for the collection. So one of the things that was so great is that Millicent actually wore Vidura jewelry, and some of the pieces that they brought were the pieces from her collection.
Our image on the screen right now is of the Hattie Carnegie workroom, and we also have the Charles James workroom.
Right.
Tell us how you work with your garments. Are you a flat pattern designer, or do you like to drape on the body and on the form?
I do a little bit of, well, I'm not a flat pattern maker. I do sketches, and I sketch very quickly, just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of croquis. And then I lay them all out and we'll spread them on the floor. And then from that, I'll kind of edit and see, you know, which kind of direction that I want to go with the collection. And we, at that point, then put it into work.
We also have another very famous lady. This is the Duchess of Windsor, Wallis Simpson,
right.
Also an expatriate American. And tell me how she influences your style and what other designers aside from Charles James that you pull from.
I would say that she influences my design in terms of the elegant restraint. Very clean, very simple looks. And of course, you know, she wore a lot of Mamboche. And Mamboche was one of the greats that also looked to Vionnet in terms of the bias cut. So he's borrowing from Vionnet, another great who pioneered bias.
Interestingly enough, he was an American as well, who did show in the couture in Paris and then came back and continued influencing American fashion.
Right.
One of your gorgeous dresses, tell us about this.
And this is a twist, and actually the preceding slide would have been again, back to the color of Cecil Beaton. The bright orange that was in that background influenced the palette for this particular dress.
Okay. Madeleine Vionnet, another huge designer of the 20th century.
Right.
How does she influence you?
I think the bias cut. I love bias. I do a lot of draping, cowl necks, bias backs, lots of flourishes of fabric, and Vionnet would have been one of my really excellent teachers, I should say.
So what about the bias do you like? Is it because it's simply body revealing and makes a sexy dress? Or do you try to twist it and change the look of it for a more modern day sensibility for various sizes of bodies?
Well, that's the thing. The thing that's great about bias is it does fit a lot of different sizes. I mean, it expands, and that's why it's so great. A thin woman can wear it, and a woman, if she puts the right kind of under construction, you know, smoothers and that kind of thing, she can also wear bias.
Here we have a Madeleine Vionnet gown with the draping all around the body.
Right.
Tell me how draping around the body affects the wearer as they are dressing themselves, but also how a viewer is affected by that.
Right. It's about the fluidity of the drape. To wrap the body in just like the yellow dress, that you just saw would have actually been, let's say, inspired by this dress, where you got that red and black draping. How do we take that forward? Well, we simplify it. We don't need to wrap our bodies completely. We may just give it just a line and just an accent and then a beautiful drape.
Let's see our next model, please. This is marvelous. I see you love the cowl neckline.
Love the cowl neck.
Which is only done with bias.
Which is only done with bias. And this particular dress is, you know, palomino and taupe. I think really, really chic color combination. Kind of looks back to the glamour, again, of the 30s, back to the glamour of the 40s. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see, well, not exactly the next slide. We'll get to that slide. But one of the things about this dress is it forms sort of an envelope effect. And again, this looks back to Vionnet.
You have selected a slide here that shows a really thin, streamlined body. And of course, these gowns make any woman look streamlined. You can adjust the color combinations and the draping. Tell me how you work with body proportion.
Body proportion. I mean, body proportion is always a challenge. I mean, because, you know, there's no two people in the world that are alike. That is why one of the reasons that bias really works, because, again, it molds to that body. And I think that in order for a woman to really look fantastic, it's really all about fit. A woman must go and be fit. A lot of people don't like to do it. I mean, you know, even a shirt, a simple pair of jeans, you know, if a man pays $100 for a jacket, he's going to have it fit. Women pay thousands of dollars, and sometimes they say, I don't want to have it fit. But I think that's an important element of being very, very well dressed, is to have your clothes tailored and fit for you.
As a fashion icon, Wallace Simpson and Millicent Rogers understood that very well.
Right.
And they would not have gone unfitted.
Right. And I think a lot of women in Hollywood, stars, I mean, because, you know, very often they borrow the clothes, they don't really fit very well. So I think it's important to be fit.
Now, a number of the gowns that we've brought out today have been solid colored garments. Tell me about how you use pattern.
Pattern. I don't use a lot of pattern. You saw the printed chiffon dress was a pattern from that riot of color, from the beaten watercolor. Here it's polka dot. I thought for this particular collection, polka dots are generally a day fabric, but I love the idea of doing a polka dot for night. I mean, I think it's witty, I think it's young, and I think, you know, that was 1932, and then this is 2005, where I've cut the dress on the bias, I've enlarged the polka dots and did a cowl neck to it. So it's, you know, pulling from the past, looking forward to the future.
Here we have another Charles James gown. Tell me about your use of color blocking, how you cut up the body.
Right. The color, I mean, it's always great to elongate the body. On the dress that Amy was wearing, which was the palomino and taupe, you saw really kind of taken from this kind of idea. You see how the back of that dress is wrapping forward. What we would have done, or what we actually did, was take it in, and I'm giving away a lot of information here in terms of how we do it. But we pull this forward and then let it release into that wonderful envelope shape. So the color blocking, I like to do it in an elongated technique. And there you have it.
And here we have it.
Yeah.
The dress we just saw. Verdura jewelry.
Verdura jewelry.
Of course, Millicent Rogers loved that. Did she design for Verdura?
No, she didn't. She wore Verdura jewelry, and she also collaborated with Mr. Verdura.
And she inspired.
And inspired, yeah.
Definitely.
Inspired so many designers.
And inspired her own creations, I'm sure, as well. Here we have a Charles James coat. Tell me about color. We've seen some softer colors from you. What about those surprises of color? When you have a gown and suddenly the inside, you open it up and voila,
yeah.
there's an exclamation mark.
Right, that's the exciting thing. What I did with this particular, I love this color palette of the yellow and the aqua. So in that stripe that you saw in the first dress, that's where the coloring came from.
Let's see our next model, please. Here we're getting into a little bit later in time period.
Later in time period.
We're moving from the 30s, the 40s into the 50s.
Right, we've gone into the 50s, and this is a silk gazar, black and white, and there's really nothing more classic and more beautiful than black and white.
Charles James loved black and white. Millicent Rogers loved black and white.
That's right. Yeah.
As did Norman Norell.
As did Norman.
Did this gown actually inspire you directly for this garment?
No, not necessarily. I mean, somewhere in my mind, this gown has been there. I mean, I didn't look at this particular gown when I approached this collection and thought, oh, this is great, and I think I'll put this in the collection. But the sensibility of the black and white was there, and I just think that, you know, it came from within.
And we have another gown on the other side of the stage, which is from the FIDM Museum collection. This again is a Jacques Fath, and this one's in the 1950s. Tell us how this kind of a gown would influence you looking at a photograph, and then finally the presentation of your actual garment.
Right. Well, on something like this, I would just take the detail. I mean, this is a great gown. Beautiful detail here, the great neckline, the idea of this double button closure, the spaghetti strap there. And the idea is not to take something exactly. You want to like pull parts of it, you know, find certain details that work and that can be modernized and that can be put into a collection.
Okay. So you're not just copying. You're not taking a design and knocking it off because you think it's going to be great for today. You are updating it with your own twist.
That's right.
That's terrific. And here we had the gown. And Deborah Messing, I hear, was just photographed.
Yes.
Wearing this particular design.
Right.
And interestingly, here is the same idea, but then a totally different silhouette. Tell us how you translate silhouettes.
Well, you know, the other was more of a 50s, and this is more of a sleeker look. It looks back again to the idea of the shirt with a solid bottom. So here you've got the high-waisted, it's all in one piece. It's actually not a shirt, it's a high-waisted dress. Matte jersey, ruched and draped, collar popped up. It's just a great way for a woman to look at night.
And of course, we're going to take us, the audience back to Millicent Rogers in that black skirt, in the white shirt.
Right, right.
And then here is translated yet again.
Translated again, and basically what I did, this particular dress was inspired by a vintage piece that I found at a garage sale. I don't know, I probably paid $5 for it. Saved it for about 8 years until the time was right, until I did this Millicent collection. And what we've done here is we've simply taken a gown and then put a white cotton shirt over it. So it's again mixing the beautiful full glamour with the simplicity of a white cotton shirt.
Plus you still have that tie, you still have that banding around the body.
Right.
That's totally adjustable and therefore comfortable.
That's right, and it pulls it into your body and really gives you a great figure and a great shape.
I particularly like this design because you do have that shirtwaist feel, but then you've got that 1930s gown that's so full and with that wonderful piecework. Tell us about why you would blend something like this together that seems like it shouldn't go together. Right.
Well, it's, you know, I love the shape of this skirt where it's slim through the hip and then flares out at the bottom. I love the tie, as you'll notice, even on the Jacques Fath there, you've got the detail of that tie, and we were, you know, happy to discover that that was there as well, to drive our point home that, you know, the originality is not always so original. Everybody's drawing from somewhere. I mean, an artist is drawing from paintings and different things that he's seen before. A photographer, the same thing. A musician, the same as well.
Here we have a still photograph from a movie, a period film, The Secret Behind the Door with Joan Bennett. Tell me how the movies influence you. What do you look for? Do you watch only period films? Do you watch films all the way up to the present, and how do they affect your design?
I'm watching, you know, everything. I'm watching Disney. I'm watching old movies. I love the old movie channels and that kind of thing. And I'm always looking at fashion, always looking at something that can be influenced, something that can be translated into a modern day collection.
Here we have again another very famous designer, of course, American, Claire McCardell.
Right.
Tell me how Claire McCardell translates the European design into American design, and then how you take her design into American design for today. Is it the same?
I think that for Claire McCardell, it was about addressing the needs of the changing world. Women at the time when McCardell was designing were starting to go into the workforce. They were starting to be very busy people. They weren't looking for, you know, gowns. They were wanting things that were more sporty, that were more casual, and that's what she brought to the American scene. Again, the shirt dress.
So Millicent Rogers wearing couture fashions,
right,
yet translating them for herself into a comfortable style of her own.
Yeah.
You couldn't say she was a Charles James slave, just as Claire McCardell is taking a sensibility and making it her own for the American woman that is still relevant today.
That's right.
So you have your ladies combining the jewelry, combining the shirtwaist with the bias cut dress. You've got Millicent Rogers, you've got Claire McCardell. The influences, do they ever stop for you?
They never stop. I mean, I'm dreaming all of this all the time. I'm seeing and just taking in, you know, everything from everywhere. I mean, that's what it is about. You know, as a designer, you're dissecting and looking at everything in the world around you.
I think this, which is our last slide today, really brings it all together. All of those influences from the 30s, the shirtwaist, the full skirt, taffeta, day into evening, and of course it's on Peril News.
Right, yeah. We're very excited about the look of this as our finale piece for the show. It just, it opened with a shirt dress and the show closed with a shirt dress. So it's all about doing things that, for me, that were American, translating the sensibility of Millicent, mixing it all in there with Charles James, Claire McCardle, and just, stirring it up and turning it out into a collection.
That's fantastic. Yeah. Thank you. Let's see if our audience has any questions. Do we have any questions for Mr. Hall, myself, or the models? Yes, way in the back.
Would you give us an idea of what your price points are like for some of these items?
Price points, it's not bad, reasonable. We go from, I would say probably about $1,200, for a cocktail dress, a jacket, up to about $3,000 for some, simple evening dress, and then some of the beaded pieces can go as high as $5,000 or $7,000.
Next question. I can't really see. The lights are. Yes.
I have not had the privilege of actually seeing your clothing close up. How true to form are you to couture, or are you more pret-a-porter, more like?
It's really more ready to wear. I'm just taking the sensibility of the couture, and we're not stitching everything by hand. Things are machine stitched.
Shout out your question because I can barely see you. Anybody else?
Well, I have an atelier here in Los Angeles on Beverly Boulevard. I love to see people there. And then we're also in select Saks Fifth Avenue stores, and we're in boutiques around the country.
Where are you made?
We're based here in Los Angeles.
So all the clothing is made here?
Oh, you said where is it made?
Yes.
Yes, most of the clothing is made here. We do a cashmere program. The cashmeres are made in China.
There's a lady right in the center. The question? No? Okay, right here.
What's the demographic of the customer? Like, what's her age? Who do you see wearing your clothes?
This is a woman that is, I would say, between age 30 and up. So I think the woman of today that, that is 60 or 65 is not the same woman that was 65 20 years ago. It's a different woman that has takes care of her body, and she's a sexier, younger woman.
I have a question for you. Now, Millicent Rogers and Wallace Simpson, they were not 16-year-olds, 21-year-olds when they were at their prime. Does that kind of woman, someone who is not a matron by any means, but is more established, who is more sure of herself, is that somebody who influences you?
Really, it's all about style. And these were not beautiful women. Wallace Simpson certainly was not a beautiful woman, but her style was just phenomenal.
And there's a question right there.
Could you design individual pieces for?
Yes, we do.
Any other questions? Yes, right here.
What would you recommend to an aspiring designer or a possible designer?
Could you repeat the question?
How would you inspire? Oh, there we go.
What would you recommend for like an aspiring designer or costume designer? For
how so?
Go to FIDM. Kevin.
I think education is very important, and I think it's important to pour over information, magazines, books, everything that you can get your hands on, you need to look at it and absorb it and take it in and then go from there. But I do think education is very important, and I think technical skill is also important. I'm not incredibly technical, but I do have an understanding of how to get it to where I need it to be. I think that's important.
I would also say go and see as much as you can. Every quality of a garment from the haute couture down to the ready-to-wear. I mean, either at thrift stores, the vintage clothing shows, dealers, museum exhibitions, you know, really get a sense of what's out there, and then you'll be able to pull all of those influences. You never know where the source for an idea is going to come from. So go and see as much as you can. Art history, everything. Yes?
That'll be the last question.
If a designer uses the construction of old couture to be built today, they can still make money in the market.
That's very difficult because it is so time consuming. And a lot of your cost goes into the labor. And of course, you know, if you're making it in America, the labor is very high. So I think it's very difficult to make money when you're working on a very, very, very high level as close to couture as possible.
If you could please join me in thanking Kevan Hall.